when I was in full-time ministry, and the people that are in full-time ministry will know exactly what I'm talking about. When church is your life 24/7, and your work day is a Sunday, and you don't go to church with your family, you're serving in the ministry. It is extremely easy to become stagnant in your walk, because you start to supplement what you're doing with a relationship with Christ. And that's why I think you see a lot of people in ministry struggle. Is because they're spending so much time in ministry, they neglect that personal go to your prayer closet time. And that's exactly what I did. And
hey team, welcome to the Next Step Podcast, where our mission is to help you to learn about people that are taking their next steps with Jesus. And today I'm privileged to have two of my friends here, a new friend and an old friend, that are going to be sharing with us about stuff. So Brad Mulkey and also Michael Hefner. Welcome, guys. We're glad you guys are here.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Appreciate you.
I'm glad you're here too as well. So these guys are my golfer friends, which means that when I want to look good, I hire them to come be on my team so that we can do really well, because they're really great athletes. You guys are both athletes and have been since you're children, right?
Played since baseball since we're 5, and golf probably 11, maybe 11, 12.
So did you go to the same schools and play on the same teams and all that kind of stuff?
Go ahead. You can answer that one.
Yeah, so we started out in kindergarten together at the same school.
Which school was that?
It was R.J.
Hancock.
Okay.
RK Hancock.
There you go.
Yeah, so every single grade together, middle school, high school.
Right.
Even lived together in college at one point.
Cool.
So we go
Well, that
way
was
back.
interesting because you went to North Greenville and you went to UNCC. How'd you do that?
There's a little bit of a story on my end.
Okay, all right.
We can get to later, but it was me bouncing around from college to college.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Good deal. So you're both, I know you're outstanding golfers, but talk about some of the, what did you do, Brad, coming up? What was your sports?
Okay, so, well, like you said, we've known each other since we were about, yay tall, and obviously Michael's still about right here, but, we played baseball together. I had to throw it in. We played baseball together, second baseman, shortstop.
Right.
We were always known as that little combo that could always turn a double play, even though we've always been, both of us have legitimately been smaller than everybody else, but we always felt like we packed a bigger punch. My right-hand man, I would throw it, he would catch it, and he would sling it back to first. But
nice.
I always batted first, he batted second, so we just kind of always had a little tandem there.
Let's see, Ronald Acuna, who's bat second for him? Who's
First, and then Albie's the second.
Albie's the second, that's right. See,
so
that's right.
Close.
That's right, we're close.
We're not quite that talented.
So when we're recording this, we're hoping that by the time this plays next week, that the Braves are doing better than they have been because they've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, they're in the playoffs. They'll be in. So
yeah, I'm just afraid. I hope they didn't peak too soon. Anyway, I'm just a good sports observer. You guys are the real athletes. Yeah. So after Hancock, where did you play middle school?
Okay, we went to Highland Junior High, and that was it may have been one of the most fun experiences in my life for schooling.
Right.
We had great teachers, great administration, great friends. I actually, still keep up with a lot of them.
It's not the Highland it is today.
No,
though.
it was
regular public school.
It was it was a minority school, a lot of minorities, but everybody legit got along. It was
cool.
It was an amazing experience for me, and I'm sure for him. A lot of good relationships developed there. So that's where we went. Then we went to North Gaston. I should have went to Ashbrook, but again, he was one of the reasons. We had a good chance to go far in baseball and basketball, and I wanted to continue with my friends, so I kind of stayed along with North Gaston. I transferred there, and we had a great time in basketball, and fell a little short in baseball, but we kept it on going.
So you guys playing an alumni game every year at North Gaston. It's a big deal because I heard you talk about it on a podcast not too long ago.
And that's one of our best friends, Houston Patterson. I get a little chills just talking about it right now. But we both grew up with him playing rec league. Middle school, he was at WC Friday, but obviously Legion and high school. He had more talent than us combined and 10 other people combined. Tragically lost him to a heart attack. Going into his sophomore year in college, right?
Yeah.
Me and Michael were both, we were out hitting with him, and he was doing his usual, even with a wooden bat at that age, hitting balls out. And he said he felt bad and didn't want to go get the balls, and we were kind of like, oh, you hit them all out. You got to come help us. Never once thought about it. An hour later,
Yeah, he
get a phone
collapsed on
call.
his back porch.
Wow, man. So you guys have learned that life is short, right?
Oh, we learned that early.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was definitely the first time I'd ever experienced that kind of loss, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't say definitely for Michael, but I would venture that was probably one
sure.
of the first times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So.
that's cool. Because y'all been friends all your lifetime. Did you live far from one another? You live close by?
It wasn't really. I grew up at my grandmother's when my parents split when I was a little younger. So I grew up at my grandmother's, which was right behind Hancock, and he probably lived a mile from there. I moved to Union Road area, but I mean we always, stayed in touch, obviously, and I stayed at school, and so I mean we've always been intertwined. So.
Deal.
Yeah, we grew up before you get into Dallas, Long Creek area.
Yep.
Neighborhood just to the right, Hollandale. A lot of people know that neighborhood.
Yep.
So yeah, it was literally about a mile from the school.
Yeah.
And my parents still live in that house. So Gaston County guy, born
That's
and
cool.
raised. Yeah.
And you too.
Yeah. Well,
All
my
right,
mom still,
man.
I can't get her to move, so they're staying there forever. So they'll be there until they go. So.
And so tell us. So you're married too. And you have a beautiful
Okay,
daughter.
I'm married to Jenna Mulkey. She's, I again, like I said, I can't speak enough about her. His wife, I'll let him tell about it, but I mean, he's got an amazing wife as well. Boy, I tell you, just off topic, friendships and relationships with people that I've had from the time I was that small has just been amazing. Just with my daughter, when she was a little younger, she was kind of trying to figure out friendships, and I was telling her to make sure she created good friendships. And, I said, you probably only have maybe 2 or 3 really close friends forever. And she was like, well, Dad, you've got way more than that. And I was like, wow, you really saw that. And I do, from him and then 5, 7, 8 others that I can just call on, lean on. I've been very fortunate. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jenna works for Holy Angels.
She works for Holy Angels. Just started in a new position. I don't know the technical terms of it, but she used to be a med tech, but now she's more involved with hands-on with people that are in the job force. So she's working with a lot of those. She's maybe been on it a week, so she's really excited.
Right.
So
And you have one daughter?
one daughter, she's 10 going on 30. And,
Yeah.
So she's just started into softball, and I'll tell her to do something, and she kind of waves it off, and then I'll get one of my close friends, somebody to hey, will you help her? And what did they teach you? Same thing you did? Oh, okay. So it's one of those type of things. But
I see her at the Wild of the time doing dance stuff too.
Yeah, she's a dancer,
Summer
tumbler. So she seems to be a little accident prone like I am. She's got something hurting all the time like I do. So maybe she needs to get rid of that one. But I don't mind her playing sports. It's a good thing.
Absolutely. Good stuff. So how has our church helped you take a step in your journey with Christ in some way?
Well, to begin with, I started out at First Assembly Church of God with Pastor David Scruggs, and my dad, he was
Great man.
I think we
Great church.
last time I spoke with you at church, it was I told it was in March of 1987, and that changed his life and obviously changed mine because I had not been involved in church. I was only 7-ish, 8 years old, but just seeing him go from what people thought of him before into what he became was just a life-changing experience for me as well. And just to see his dedication, I've got a pretty good balance between my mom and dad, but with personalities and what have you. But he was just he was always an extra giver. Donated time to homeless missions, usher. He was just always a giver, and I really looked at that as something that I like to do. But as you get older, just like with me and him, we've gotten older, and I'm sure this will kind of go to the story. We were both in each other's wedding, and time comes. We were raising a family, and he started kids before I did, and we kind of went our separate ways. Not separate ways, but just didn't stay in contact as much. And amazing how God works, and I'll talk about sports, and sports gets a bad rap with the males because a lot of males, we just kind of head on with it, but sports has cultivated relationships. My closest relationships are with sports, people with sports, cultivated lifelong lessons just to fight and to continue to develop plans and whatnot. But golf kind of got us back. You know, he'd gotten back into golf a little bit, and we started spitfiring questions and, hey, let's go play, let's go hit, go play. And now, you know, we're talking about it all the time. And we also coach Legion baseball. So sports really involves my life. I know that kind of got off topic with church, but
no, that's exactly right. That's a part. Well, that's part of the way you take steps together, right?
And again, with sports ministries and ministries in church, I think they're just in schools. They're vital. I just believe that. You know, some people believe music is more, and that's the.
You played on our basketball team. You played on our softball team.
So I mean, it's just vital. That's where you get a lot of relationships. But the next steps and journeys, it's for me, it's always hard because I'm always a doer. I just want to do it all, and I've always stretched myself thin because.
FOMO.
Yeah,
you're missing out.
Exactly. You know, I've always, again, we'll go back to sports. I want to be good at golf, basketball, so I was always just good at all of them because I wanted to play them all instead of really focusing on one or two. And, you know, that's probably my biggest challenge in the next step is what is my exact calling instead of doing a little bit of everything. So that's for me.
Awesome.
Yep.
Discovering that. Now you're a professional libation expert.
Yeah.
Because you work for Sundrop.
That's right.
Keep me supplied in Diet Cherry Lemon Sundrop, man.
Liquid
Thank you for
crack
doing that.
is what I call it. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good stuff. So Brad and I were playing in a tournament this summer, and he introduced me to Michael and said, Michael, come play on our team. And so just, you know, you're as likable as Brad is, maybe even more so. I don't know. What do you think?
Very much so.
Way more.
But you guys started talking about your stories, and you told me he had a story to tell. I thought you were just talking about a joke or something. But, Michael, you got some kind of story to tell, too. Tell us about your family.
So I am married to Stacy Hefner. Be 20 years next year. We started dating, went on our first date October 17th, 1997.
All right.
Let me interrupt him. Everybody was jealous of Michael because he got Stacy. So Stacy, that's my plug there.
Okay.
So we got married in 2004. We had two beautiful girls. Riley's 16. She's at East Gaston. Kendall is 11, and she's at Stanley Middle. Both cheerleaders, both all girls, girl dad. And, they're just absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
That's cool. So tell us about your history. So you played college basketball?
Attempted. I was a walk-on, did a lot of practice stuff, but never got into it. I should have played golf. Let's just be frank. I should have played golf, and Michael probably should have too, even though he was a heck of a baseball player, and I felt like I would. But we probably both should have really stuck to golf. But yes. And
then you played North Greenville baseball.
I did, and it's yeah, I did walk on the golf team too.
Okay, good deal.
But anyway, a God story started with baseball in North Greenville my senior year.
Okay.
So I got saved right down the street here at Belmont Foursquare. That's where my family grew up going to church.
Thanks, Belmont Foursquare.
And so there was definitely some time between 10, 11 years old until I started going back to church. So that's a little bit of a longer story, so I'll just kind of save that.
Yep. Okay.
But I was in my room when I was a senior. I got up one Sunday morning, and I really wasn't following Christ. Nobody had told me what it was like to have a real relationship. Like I was kind of just going the religion route. And the Spirit spoke to me and said, go to church. And it kind of took me by surprise because it was something that was very evident in my heart. And so naturally I kind of start talking to myself, like, where am I going to go? And the only church that popped up in my mind was, at the time, it was Bethlehem Baptist Church, right beside the Bojangles.
Yep.
And I didn't tell anybody in the home. I went, and I felt like Dickie was speaking right to me. I rededicated my life that day. And then my entire senior year, I got involved in the youth, started growing deeper in my relationship with Christ, loved playing baseball. I had always had a desire to go to college and play baseball, even though when I looked in the mirror, I was smaller. Didn't really see that was something that was a possibility for me. And so even though that's something I wanted to do, it didn't seem like any doors were there. So I'm going down the hall one day in school. Every college that I applied to, didn't get into it. I didn't apply myself in school, so that was on me. And there was a friend of ours sitting at the lunch table. His name's Jeff Parker, played on the baseball team with us. He was filling out an application for North Greenville. And he said, hey, I'm going down to North Greenville to try to play football. You ought to come down and room with me and try to play baseball.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I don't have anything else to lose.
Yeah.
So very small application, front and back paper. Filled it out, mailed it in. They called me on the phone the next week, which was out of the norm because, you're getting letters from colleges saying you got accepted. Well, North Greenville didn't do that. They would call you on the phone because it was a small private school at the time. Mm-hmm. And they said, we'd love for you to come to school here. And I thought, hey, this is going good so far. So I told my dad, and he got online and checked out. They probably made a phone call. Back in those days, the internet wasn't what it is today. Right. And he said, son, you can't go to school there. And I said, well, why not? And he said, it would cost more to go there than it would Clemson because it was a private school. He said, we just simply can't afford it. And so I was a little bummed out for sure. Yeah. And so I went on about my summer, totally wrote that off. It was completely out of my mind. I was going to Gaston College. Mm-hmm. And so we get into playing Legion baseball, get into the Legion playoffs. We're playing West Mech, which was our first round Legion matchup.
Chad Tracy.
And it just so happened that a guy was on that team. His name's Chad Tracy.
Okay.
Went to East Carolina, played for the Diamondbacks. Mm-hmm. Very popular guy in the major leagues when he played. And I had met Chad about 4 or 5 years previous at Clemson baseball camp, and we became buddies. And so here we are in the middle of this Legion playoff. I'm playing second base, and he's on second base. He said, hey, man, you're having a great series. Where are you going to college to play baseball? And I said, I'm not going anywhere to play college baseball. I didn't get anywhere. And he says, have you ever heard of North Greenville College?
Oh, wow.
And it just flabbergasted me, right? And does anybody say flabbergasted anymore?
Yeah, that's good. You just said it. Flabbergasted.
But anyway, I said
the word for the day.
Yeah, and so he said, well, my brother went to college there. My dad's really good friends with the coach. Maybe he could make a phone call. So after the game, my dad talked. He called the coach, got me a workout. I go down. There was the shortstop that was playing for the school at the time. He was there for summer school, worked out with him. We went, had lunch, sat down at a table. He said, we would love to have you here. You're already accepted. And in fact, we were going to give you a scholarship.
Wow.
To come here.
So how random is that?
I mean,
yeah,
that's
can't
not
just be random.
So that was one of the first introductions to me that when God's got a plan for your life, that he not only will do it, but he will give you the desires of your heart. Why? Because that lined up with what I really wanted to do. I didn't make everybody known that, hey, I'm going to go play college baseball.
Right.
Right? But it was in my heart.
Right.
And so he had a plan for my life. And over those next 2 years at North Greenville, having the opportunity to play baseball, something I love, more so than that, it was just immersing myself in Scripture and fellowship and going to Bible Student Union, the FCA, going to chapels, hearing all types of preachers. And over the next 2 years, and that was the time where I went on the first date with my wife. And so this story, she has been there for pretty much the whole story, right? So
was she a student there too?
Say what?
Was she a student there too?
No, she's a couple years behind me, so she ended up going to UNC Charlotte too, where she was a cheerleader dancer there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
That's kind of my beginning college story.
Yeah.
That's where I felt like I was being called into ministry. I didn't really know how, but that was kind of the route that I went. And so I think whenever people hear ministry, especially early on, they think, hey, I want to be a preacher. That's kind of what they know. They don't see that, hey, you can be a missionary, that, hey, you can very easily go into children's ministry and all those things. So I didn't really know how. Yep, you can do that. And so that is where I kind of started getting called into the ministry. I just didn't really know how I was going to move forward with that because made some pretty bad decisions, meaning that I left the school. I wanted to play baseball at a bigger level, so I left and went to App.
Okay.
That didn't pan out for me at all. It was a bad decision. Never should have done it. Never asked anybody, guided me or anything. Kind of felt like I stepped out of God's will and made that decision on my own. Didn't produce any fruit in my life. And so that's when I ended up transferring to UNC Charlotte, because really I wanted to be closer to my girlfriend, Stacy, at the time. But it just so happened he went there.
Yeah.
And we were able to room together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you go back to play sports at UNCC or Charlotte?
I didn't. No.
No.
I was done at that point.
And you were
And my
walking
dad
home.
had actually, that's really kind of how we got another, I guess, traumatic. My dad had just passed away, and, we just kind of, what was the name of that place we stayed at? I don't know. I can see it. It's right across the street. It's not there anymore. But anyway, we stayed there, and,
From the front entrance.
front entrance, yeah. I mean, I can see it, but it's gone now. I can't think of the name of it, but, we stayed there for a year. That was right.
Yep, about a year.
And then half a year later, I was graduating.
And so after you finished college, y'all kind of still maintain your friendship, but more from a distance for a while?
No, well, I mean, he was in my wedding and I was in his.
Right.
So, because, I mean, we're still kind of close. But again, like I say, he how old's, she's 17 now, 16?
Who? Riley? She's 16.
Riley's 16.
Yeah, she's
so,
16.
He started kids earlier, and now, it changes. Kids change things. And that was probably the main reason. And, my job was a little further away, and you went to Charlotte at that time, wouldn't you? Go to Central kind of and start.
Yeah, there's a story leading into that too.
Yeah, so he'll tell that,
All
I'm
right.
sure. But so that's what life happens.
Yeah,
It's just,
sure.
You just kind of get going different separate ways.
So your athletic skills took you to a certain place in college, and that happens a lot of times.
Yep.
You kind of get to that place kind of like, okay, I've done this, been there, done that. I want to have fun with my life, but I'm not going to be a professional athlete, which essentially, when you're in college, you're kind of a professional athlete. It's a second job anyway. You've got to do it and practice and books. You got to keep certain
5:30
standard.
in the morning to whatever at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then comes, let's explore the ministry question, because you mentioned something about Central. What does it mean when he's talking about Central?
So whenever I was at UNC Charlotte, I found out very quickly that I was wasting my parents' money, felt guilty for it. So I quit doing that, went straight to work.
Okay.
And at that same time, I was in between churches. Really didn't know where to go. My aunt and uncle were going to Central Church of God in Charlotte. They had been there for years. I went with them one weekend, and it was very evident to me that God spoke to my heart and said, "This is where I want you to be."
Cool.
And so I just started attending church there, and that led me into the youth ministry. I started volunteering in the youth. Your youth pastor, Justin, was there.
Yeah,
he was in
that's
that
what's
youth
cool
group.
to me. I did not know that you knew Justin.
Yeah.
But had known him years ago as his youth pastor.
Yeah, so I was in construction at the time, and I had a friend of mine that was already working at the church in we called it the maintenance staff, but basically we were the guys that were the janitors of the campus.
Yeah.
The campus over there is big, 6,000 people.
Yep.
400 in the youth. Each guy's got their own building to clean. And he said, "Hey, we got a spot open over here. Would you be interested?" So me and Stacy prayed about it. I decided to take the position. And so I started my ministry journey as a janitor.
Wow.
And
that's cool.
And I loved it, to be completely honest with you. I had really taken that call to ministry and kind of that's not my full-time gig. I'm just going to cast it off to the side. And I would literally go in with a vacuum cleaner, and I would vacuum these huge rooms.
Yep.
And I would spend as much time with Jesus as I could and volunteer in the church. And I did that for about a year, and I got called into the office one day randomly. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know if they were going to say, "Hey, don't need you anymore in that building." But they said, "We've been watching you for a while, and a gentleman that's in the youth ministry, he's going to be gone, and we want to know if you would like to take that position."
Wow.
And so that's another lesson, is that when you don't think people are watching you, people are watching you.
That's right.
So it's very important to know what you're doing, who you're associating with, right?
Right.
But more than that that whole year, I felt like God was preparing me for that position. And that's exactly what happened. So stepped into the Student Life Center Director role. And so that entailed me really running the youth facility that was a full-time kitchen, games, learned how to run sound. I would step in and do a message if the youth pastor wasn't there.
Right.
Organize and run camps. We did choir tours. So it was a lot of the administrative things behind the scenes that the youth needed. That was my role for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so being able to sit underneath Pastor Loran Livingston in staff meetings.
Great man.
Yes.
I didn't know it at the time, but I would not be who I am today if I had not sat underneath that leadership in that position and learned how to do ministry and see how he leads the church and the way that things should be done from a genuine God, Jesus perspective.
Yep.
And even though there are bells and whistles everywhere,
Yep.
that's not the heart of the ministry.
Sure.
So yeah, that was my introduction into ministry.
Isn't it
How
amazing
cool is
how
that?
seasons of life, like just, I mean, just that season just prepared him for, it doesn't always have to be your whole life, but just seasons of life really tie into where you end up in life.
It is.
Yeah.
And both of y'all have gone through that as friends and that kind of stuff. And part of the reason I wanted folks to meet you is that, you got a friendship that's gone the distance. And there's a lot of people that are lonely out there, and suicide rates at an all-time high, mental health anxiety. There's people on 4 or 5 month waiting lists to get in to see a counselor because they just need somebody to talk to. And we want to always value the value of friendship. And I feel like because we were friends and you were introduced by a mutual friend, Patrick Horniman, and that kind of stuff, that you were introduced as a friend too. And that's the way the body of Christ grows. We get to know each other. We connect with one another. We see each other out in the culture and that kind of stuff. So your friendship is inspirational to me. But also, Brad said, Michael has a story he needs to tell somewhere. And I said, well, that is really cool because I wanted to find out what it was myself.
Yeah.
And when I found out what it was, I just had to have you share it with us too. And incidentally, Michael goes to Depot Church in Stanley. One of our lead elders, Troy Campbell's daughter, is the kids minister there. And, she was at one of our seminars this weekend and back serving your church this weekend. We kind of think of God's church as a big C church and not a little C church. And so we're grateful that you've come to share with us. But I want you to tell us what happened to you physically the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That really can minister to people in a powerful way. Now pay attention. If you've not been listening, you need to stop right now what you're doing. You need to turn it up. You need to listen to Michael.
Yeah.
Let me introduce
And be ready to go amen.
So Michael, I was coaching Legion with a close friend of mine, Kenneth Pacehour, and we were trying to find coaches. And again, me and Michael had just spurned and got back, and I told him, I said, I think you need to ask Michael because of just number one, knowing who he is, and obviously knowing the game of baseball. And he was like, "Are you sure you'd want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, he's got the time, he's got the knowledge, and he's got the just the heart for it." And it's good to have good people wherever you are. I've learned that from my stepdad. He Highland. You just got to surround yourself with good people and be positive.
And your stepdad's Lee Debney played basketball at Chapel Hill.
He
was
did.
superintendent of schools and is now on school board, right?
School board. There you go. I don't think he ever did super.
He was like a principal though.
Whatever.
That's right.
Big tall guy.
I'm sorry, I gave you promotion.
There you go. Yeah. So and then I can remember it. It's probably right when the season started. Michael, he called me, and and this is a segue, and he told me about him having fallen, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll let you go from there because it's just
So I want to give a lot of context and paint a bigger picture here because I think it's important to point out a couple of things. Okay, when I was in full-time ministry, and the people that are in full-time ministry will know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. When church is your life 24/7, and your work day is a Sunday, and you don't go to church with your family, you're serving in the ministry. It is extremely easy to become stagnant in your walk because you start to supplement what you're doing with a relationship with Christ. And that's why I think you see a lot of people in ministry struggle.
Yep.
Is because they're spending so much time in ministry, they neglect that personal go to your prayer closet time. And that's exactly what I did. And so I was brought in 2012 with another meeting. And at this time, that was after the downturn of the economy and all that stuff in 2008. And they said, we are actually going to do away with your position. We're going to eliminate that position.
Oh, boy.
And so that was pretty much a ministry opportunity for me that was, I could see it coming to an end. But if I was just being 100% transparent, whenever I left, I was a little relieved because it was almost like I had done church so much that I was kind of ready to get away from it a little bit. And that's exactly what I did.
I'm sure that's the story of many people that are out there. You've gone through some kind of church thing or church hurt or just church exhaustion is kind of what you're describing.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Yeah. And so over the next few years, I get into, my dad gets me on at Duke Energy because he retired from there.
Cool.
And so I started working outages, started making more money. You know, in the ministry, it's tough, right?
Yeah.
So I started getting more money, which enabled us to go do more things. And so all in all, looking back, this stuff just furthered me. I started separating myself a little too much from my relationship with Christ to the point to where things just didn't bother me anymore. I had kind of started callousing my heart.
Callous in your heart,
Yeah. And so it didn't matter what I watched. It didn't matter what I listened to. I had kind of done a complete reversal from walking with Christ to doing what I wanted to do, and then getting to the point to where every once in a while, maybe feeling a little bad for it, but really I had kind of starting to harden my heart unintentionally at the time, but that's exactly what happened to me.
Right.
There would be times, very active working out just like you, I would be in my garage gym or I would be at the gym and I'd be spending all this time and I would hear God say to me, what does it profits you to gain the whole world and yet lose your soul?
Right.
And it's like I would hear that and completely ignore it. And that wasn't just from a fitness perspective. That was the money that we were then afforded that we could go and do and buy more things, nicer cars, and get into that lifestyle. But
Nicer vacations?
Nicer,
Yep.
Name it,
Yep.
right? But that was all at a detriment to my relationship with Christ. And so to pick exactly up where he left off, I'm around these guys. I'm at my home on May 28th. I tripped and fell.
May 21?
May 28th, last year.
Yeah, or 2022.
2022.
Okay.
Yep. I'm at home Friday night with my daughter. My wife and my older daughter's out. And I fell in my garage and hit my head right here and split it open on my squat rack.
Oh, okay. Man.
So I get up, pool of blood everywhere, called my wife, said, you got to come home. I hit my head, got to go to the emergency room and get stitches. And so she comes home, takes me down to the emergency room. They stitched me up. They said, let's do a CAT scan to make sure you don't have a fracture on your skull or anything more serious like a brain bleed or something, because it was a pretty nasty fall. And they were about to discharge me. He comes in. He says, well, everything looks good, but do you know you got a spot on your brain?
Wow.
And I looked at my wife, and she turned white as a ghost. And I really don't think much of it at the time. And I said, well, no, I don't. And he said, you got headaches? And I said, no, I don't ever have headaches. Dizzy? No, I'm never dizzy. So he leaves the room, comes back in. He says, you sure you don't have headaches? And I said, no, man. I started getting upset. Like, no, I don't have headaches.
Wow.
He said, well,
I've had one since I hit myself at the bar.
Right, absolutely. I got one now. So he said, well, I'm going to recommend that you get an MRI and follow up with a neurologist.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did. So we left there with no answers. And I get set up with a local gentleman, wonderful man, Dr. Hunter in Gastonia, godly man. And
Thank you, Dr. Hunter.
And I was very fortunate to go in and speak candidly with him. He did an MRI. He said, well, this is what appears to be what we call a glioma. He said, it's not exact. I've talked to my colleagues, not exactly sure what it is. But I say we just watch it. We'll watch it for a few months, see if it grows. Because whenever you get these MRIs, some are with contrast, some are without. Mine, when they put the contrast in, that'll tell you how aggressive a tumor is. Well, mine stayed black. So whatever it wasn't aggressive.
Okay.
So I kind of felt a little bit better about that, hey, he said some people live with these for decades and they don't really grow that much, and we can probably just address this whenever we need to. So I kind of felt good about that at the moment. He said, but I've got a friend at Duke, if you'd like to go for a second opinion.
Yep.
And I had no idea who this guy was, and I talked to my wife. Well, it won't hurt. I mean, Duke's the best in the country at it, and let's just go have a conversation to see what the guy says. Well, the gentleman's name ended up being Dr. Alan Freeman.
Okay.
He's 73 years old.
Okay.
He did Ted Kennedy surgery. They said that he's world-renowned, one of the best in the country at it. In fact, Duke had a rule that you couldn't do surgeries past 63.
Okay.
Well, this man, when he turned 63,
They
the
changed
board
rule.
met and said, you can do surgeries as long as you want.
Okay.
And so this was the guy. We go in. He has no bedside manners. He does 10 surgeries a week.
Yeah.
And so he comes straight in, gets right to the point. He said, well, I looked at your scan, and he said, you can watch this thing if you want to. He said, but if you want my opinion, he said, we go ahead and take it out now. And we started looking at each other, and I said, well, so now I'm starting to have a reality that there could be some surgery coming my way.
On your brain.
On my head.
This ain't like stitching up your hand because you cut it on something.
No,
Right.
no, this is a big deal. And I said, man, what kind of time frame are we looking at here? And he just looks down at his watch and looks back, and he said, how's 2 weeks sound?
Yeah.
I mean, that nonchalantly.
Yeah.
And my wife absolutely falls apart in that room.
I bet so.
I just remember looking over at her and just her saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, no, we didn't come here for this.
Yeah.
We came here for a talk. And, but if I could explain to you, in the moment that she was falling apart, there was a peace that flooded that room where I literally could have fell back in the chair and went to sleep.
Wow.
And
So for you, it's kind of, you got you centered and chilled and at peace with God instead of panicky and like, cut it out now or whatever.
yeah, it was one of those things. I think we had this conversation on the golf course that day, was when you live your Christian life, there is a lot that you just simply have to read and believe,
Yeah.
right? We believe it by faith.
Yeah.
But in that moment, that day, was one of the most realest Holy Spirit, peace of God moments that I've ever had in my life. It's
Right.
literally unexplainable.
Right.
And when we were on our way home, I was talking to a friend on the phone, and I said this, and I feel like the Spirit put it in my heart. I said, God didn't show this to me, right? Because before, I never had a single symptom. I had a fall in my garage. I never had a seizure. I never have passed out. None of that.
Right.
And I said, God didn't show this to me to watch it. He showed this to me to take care of it now.
Right.
And I don't know what the future holds. None of us do. But me and my wife looked at each other and said, okay, we're going to do the surgery.
Where was the tumor, by the way? Or the
So
spot?
it was on
Yeah.
left side.
Okay.
Yep. Behind my eye.
Okay.
And it didn't give me any problems.
Right.
But on August the 10th, I had a 6-hour surgery for a brain resection. They did several MRIs during surgery. I don't know how Duke has the capability to do that. You know, I think they've got some type of mobile MRI. If I'm wrong on that, I'm wrong.
Right.
But I know he said I went in, I got out all that I could see, pulled the machine, did an MRI, saw more, went back in, got what
Wow.
was there, did another MRI, and saw that it was clean, and I sewed you up. So the difference, he said, and this is just a little bit of a side note for people to understand tumors and how difficult some could be. He said it's not like a cherry that you cut out of Jell-O. He said a glioma is like somebody took a glob of sand and held it above your brain and just dropped it.
Huh.
So it's almost like something that spreads in granules. And he said that if I watch this, that this would be the tumor that would turn into glioblastoma.
Wow. And that's very virulent.
It is super, super deadly. In fact, we have a really great friend of ours who just passed away Saturday. He's a local Belmont guy, Brad Howe.
Wow.
We found our tumors 2 weeks from each other. Wow. And we built up a little relationship over the past year. That we could speak to each other and just know exactly what each other was going through. Wow. Unfortunately, his was a stage 4 or 5 glioblastoma, and he lost his battle Saturday here, but he's with the Lord,
right?
Which we're thankful for.
Amen.
But mine was about 3 centimeters, which he said was about the end of your thumb. And so all along, God, and to me, this is one of the most important points of my story, is that a lot of people would look and say, well, you're close to God now again because you got scared. Right? God kind of scared you back. And I've never seen it as a punishment. God doesn't punish us. It punishes children. I see it as his mercy in my life. Like, son, this is not what I called you to do. This is not what I've been doing in your life over the past 20 years. And you're living a way that is going to take you down roads that you don't want to go. So I literally feel like this was a divine God appointment in my life, that he made me fall, that he gave me something that was clearly a gift. And all the scriptures you read, you draw close to me, I'll draw close to you. Right?
Right.
He's going to give you comfort to the weak.
Right.
And I literally cried every day for 2 weeks when I found out, poured my heart out to the Lord, recognized what was going on in my life. And
so it was about something bigger than just a physical tumor. It was
100%.
about life decisions.
100%.
A lot of people are just kind of like, just keep me well and happy because I want to do what I want to do. But you're saying this really has a core back to something related to what your life calling was and what it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And I think that there's probably a handful of times, and I don't know what other people's experiences are, but there's been some pretty deliberate times where I felt the Spirit speaking to my heart. And during this whole process, and this is what really kind of brought it home for me, was I was at my computer before the surgery, and you've never tried to get your life in order, trust me.
Yeah.
Until you get something told you like this, and you start thinking about everything.
Yeah.
Like, man, what am I gonna leave behind? Like, what am I gonna give to my wife? And so I'm just having a conversation with the Lord, and I'm like, you know, what is the goal? Like, what if I'm gone, or if this happens? You know, what's left behind? Like, what should my legacy be? And the Holy Spirit spoke to my heart, and he said, your greatest legacy is that your children know the Lord.
Amen.
And I wasn't living in a way to lead my family to where I would be head of my wife, to love her like Christ loved the church, for my children to see that example, to have my children walk downstairs to get ready for school and they see me spending time with the Lord. Like, those things are so important in the way that we bring our children up. And it was evident to me that even though he's drawn me closer to him, I even have to look outside of that and say, the divine plan of my life extends to my children.
Right.
Because he's got a plan for them. And I have to be careful.
Right.
Because even though he's got a plan for them, I could be a roadblock, right, to them by saying, what you see me doing, and I'm saying I'm a Christian, is okay. It's okay for you to do too. And so seeing or hearing the Spirit speak to me that way, it was really our whole family come into Christ.
Right.
In a way that we never
theoretical either. You told me your daughter, in a very personal kind of way, because of what she was observing in your life, decided, okay, this is real, right?
Oh, 100%. My oldest daughter poured her life into Christ that summer, last summer, took her walk deeper. And just like I said earlier, you don't really start getting things in order. Well, one of those things was my youngest daughter grew up in church. She grew up at Central. She was with us 24/7 there. Right. Kendall come 5 years after us, so she's a baby. She's not really grown up in the church like Riley did. And I had never remembered a point in time where Kendall had dedicated her life to Christ. And so I just started praying, Lord, save my children, save Kendall. And I was sitting downstairs about 2 weeks later after I prayed that prayer. My wife calls me from upstairs. Michael, can you come upstairs? And so I thought that I had done something wrong, like I was about to get in trouble, right?
Usual.
And so I go upstairs, and she's standing there with Kendall, and she said, Kendall wants to ask Jesus to come into her heart.
Wow.
And I didn't tell anybody I prayed that prayer. I didn't tell her. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Brad. I didn't tell anybody that I had prayed that for her. And so we prayed with her, and she asked Jesus to come into her heart. A few months later, she got baptized. And it was amazing to me that God was answering my prayers exactly the way that I prayed. I know he doesn't always do that.
Right.
But he pricked her heart. I didn't say, because two days later, I asked Stacy, I said, what brought that on? Like, were y'all having a conversation? Did you, like, say, hey, you need to be saved or anything like that? And she said, no. She said, I was doing laundry, and she just walked up to me.
Wow. And
she said, Mom, I think I want to ask Jesus to come into my heart. Wow. He did that work. Yeah. He pricks people's hearts, right? And so it seems like one thing after another. That God was doing a very special thing in my life. And as off base as it may seem to say this, and it may be hard for people to believe, the work that he's done in me just over this past year, right? I would welcome this same scenario back.
All over again.
1,000 times.
Wow.
And the more time you spend with Jesus, the bigger heaven gets, and the smaller our problems get. It was almost like I didn't have cancer. And it is still something that is in my mind and probably will be for the rest of my life.
Right.
Me and my wife were having a conversation in the garage because every time, well, let me back up. It was a grade 2 astrocytoma. That was what the histology came back. It has a non-aggressive gene associated with it. They said that it could come back one day. He said they usually come back. That's just the nature of these types of tumors. He said, but we have zero timeline on when. Could be 2 years, could be 20 years. You could die of something else before it comes back. So I have to get scans about every 3 months.
Okay.
I've had, I think, 6 scans since the surgery of last August. Every single one has shown no regrowth of tumor. Every time they come around, you get a little antsy, a little nervous.
Right.
Because, you start to, in your mind, relive what you just went through. It's kind of a natural thing.
Won't happen again?
Yeah, and this is, but I kind of see it as, God put something very special in my life that keeps me grounded.
Yeah.
And there may be some people out there that says, well, you should be spiritually mature enough to not need that. Right. But for whatever reason, that's probably something that I need in my life to keep me in check.
Well, man, what a story. I mean, and not just a story, but what a deep narrative God's put in your life. And there's the thing that struck me first about when we first met on the golf course, because we played in this thing this summer, is that there's just a piece about you. It's like, I don't care whether I hit it straight or crooked. I'm glad I'm here with my friend, and we became friends that day and just hanging out together and sharing a meal together. It's like you've learned the value of taking every day just for today and what it's all about.
He's always been Joe Cool. Anyway.
Oh, has he? Yeah. He is cool, dude. Man, you are too, though. Come on. You're the cool twins. Yeah. Absolutely. So the other thing I think is important for people to hear is that, you were not somebody that was not taking care of themselves. You're the first CrossFit owner in Gastonia or in Gaston County, right?
Yeah.
You had that business, and you taking care of your body and your health, and you were running, and you were doing all kinds of stuff like that, right?
Yeah, because my family has a deep history in cancer. Every one of my grandparents passed away of cancer except for one.
Right.
Both my mother and my father have had cancer. And so I have kind of lived with, when's my turn?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that very thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the vitamins. I'm going to do what they didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stay away from processed foods. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to lift the weights.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't serious about their health, but I'm going to be serious about my health.
Mm-hmm.
And God showed me right away that I think it's important to take care of yourself,
right?
So that the time that you have here to minister to other people,
mm-hmm.
That you do that at feeling your best,
right?
But that is not what keeps you,
right?
It is His Spirit that sustains you.
Amen.
It is a daily dying
mm-hmm.
that enables you to walk with Christ and live that life. And
so what kind of routines do you have to make that happen? And you too, Brad. I'd love to hear what you're doing as well too.
Go ahead.
So I really feel like, and this is kind of taking a turn for me. I used to live for Sundays,
mm-hmm.
right? Like it was the highlight.
Yeah.
Like I just want to get into the presence of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be around other people. I want to hear the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
That's changed now. The highlight for me is the quiet times that I get with God.
Awesome. Is that morning for you, night, during the middle of the day?
I get up in the morning, and I pretty much try to do it. I don't try to fit it into a certain window or a box.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look at it as an ongoing conversation.
Yeah,
right.
I like that. Kind of keeping an open mic with God.
Yeah. So
right?
If you've got friends, and this is easy for anybody to understand in the day and age that we text as much as we do. People like Brad, I've got another buddy, Nick, or even my wife. We can have a text thread or a conversation
mm-hmm.
that seems to never end,
mm-hmm.
right? He may ask me a question. It may be an hour later I answer.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about something, switch, and kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
But that conversation seems to never stop.
Yeah.
It's just an ongoing thing. And that's
a
really
great illustration.
That's really the approach that I'm taking.
Yeah.
Is that when you walk in the Spirit and you pray without ceasing,
right.
It doesn't mean that you sit there and pray in your chair all day.
Right.
It's that when you think about, or you hear His voice, mm-hmm. or you see a need, and you simply talk to God and pick up the conversation where you left off.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I really sit down and try to spend time in the Word. If I don't understand it, it's okay. I read it anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference, is not spending my time with God.
Right.
Being in full-time ministry, going down a path,
mm-hmm.
neglecting my relationship, going a direction I didn't want to go. And I don't want to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
But let me be clear. It's not because I don't want to go back to that place. When you immerse yourself in the relationship with Christ, you appreciate His presence.
Yeah.
You enjoy your time with Him.
It's not, okay, I got that done. Check it off the list.
No.
Bye, Jesus. See you tomorrow.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Brad, how about you?
See, I'm an emotional being. I don't really know where I get that one from, because my mom, she's pretty cut and dry, but I'm one of those, my voice is quivering now because I just think about songs. Songs come to mind for
mm-hmm.
me. I've had the fortune to speak at funerals, and that just to be able to, I'm a writer,
mm-hmm.
so I catch myself doing a lot of jotting down.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my way.
You send songs out. You send.
I send
videos.
People,
you've done it with me as well.
Yeah, Mark, a buddy of mine, and speaking of that, I'm an imitator. I've always, being a sports person. Oh man, look at Tiger Woods swing. I want to imitate. Look at.
Well, I've seen it. You do a pretty good job.
Some days, basketball, whatever it is, I'm an imitator. I like to take the best of what I see, and I've had a lot of good people in my life, between my dad and Pastor McGinnis, Mark Edges, and yourself. I just like to take the best of people and see those. My stepdad, like I was just mentioning, he's such a positive guy, and I used to be I'm still got a little bit of a hotness to me, but he's such a positive guy, and now I just feel I don't feel like I get swayed very much of just a temper tantrum person. But that's me. I've
never seen you get mad.
It'll happen.
Does it? Okay.
It does happen, unfortunately. But being that you can't always imitate people, humans, because we all fall short.
Right.
But I'm just glad that people in my life that I have associated with are Christ-like as much as they can be, that I can imitate, whether it be yourself, Michael, Kenneth, Mark, just everybody that's really crossed my path has been very influential in that. And is that wrong or right? I don't know, but for me, that's the way that I kind of divulge with relationships.
No, I think that's very right. I mean, for some people, their faith is a head thing. They discover God intellectually. Other people, it's very much a heart thing.
Right.
Other people, they can't really discover it unless they're around in relationships. Yep. For other people, it's about, I discovered God through music. There's a guy named Gary Thomas who wrote a book called Sacred Pathways. And he says we all have our own pathway by which we're discovering God. For some people, it's naturalists. Like they want to climb a mountain by themselves and be there when the sun rises in the morning, spend their time with Jesus that way. And I think God involves all of our senses and everything a part of us. But I think he does tend to appeal through one in general so that we can tune into that frequency, keep that microphone open as he's trying to tell us different kinds of things, whether we're listening to a song or hitting a great golf shot or paying attention. You also have an elaborate kind of routine you go through. I wanted to tell people about this as well, too, that you've done. And you as well. Yesterday, you're telling me about this guy, by the way, is going to be playing tomorrow as we speak in the North Carolina Amateur Golf Tournament, which is like something very elite that not many people get a chance to do. But you're going to get some special chiropractic work done or some massage therapy or something like that just to make sure your hand was right. But you also have one, too, ice baths and saunas and all. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of an experimentalist.
Yeah.
Like I'll see something or it's a hot thing. That's how I got into CrossFit. It was hot at the moment.
Yeah.
And so now it's the hot and cold therapy.
Okay.
So I made an ice chest freezer in the garage, and it stays at about 48. So I do that 3 days a week. I do the sauna almost every evening.
Yep.
So that whole health mindset went from I just want to look good and be prideful and vain to how can I just feel my best when I'm here. So I'm kind of trying that stuff out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It is.
And the fact you both are still experimenting with things to take care of, because here's the other thing. There's other people kind of like, this flesh, it's just all bad. It's all about the spirit. And they don't take care of their bodies.
Right.
And you got to take care of your body so that because it's the household of your spirit too, right?
Yeah.
And so you both are really good at doing that. But also, I really admire the way you have friendship together. And while I've only seen you interact a couple of times together, I can tell you guys are like, you've been tight since you were young, and it's evident. And we want that kind of experience for everybody, that everybody could come to a place where they can have friends that are that close, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been several times where, he's going through something, and immediately he can start talking, and I just know
where he's going.
Yeah, where he's going with it. And it's the same way. We've been through a lot.
Right.
We've stood the test of time.
Right.
That doesn't make us special.
Right.
It just makes us love each other.
Yeah.
And
that's great for a man to be able to say
somebody,
one man loves another man without it being weird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and
Absolutely.
to know you've got somebody in your corner. I mean, you spoke to that earlier today with everything that's going on. Satan tries to isolate people.
Yeah, that's right.
He's doing it to the young kids.
Oh, yeah.
And so to have somebody that you can turn to is paramount.
Right. That's cool. Man, we could talk forever. I want to take you guys down a random pathway. All right. So we're going to throw some hot seat questions out here. All right. So you're both golfers. Callaway or Titleist?
Titleist.
Callaway.
Oh, okay. So they're friends, but they don't agree on everything. All right.
Right.
Ice cream, Tony's or Dairy Queen?
I'm going Dairy Queen.
All right.
Blizzard has got me.
What are you going to get there?
I'm going to get a banana split Blizzard.
All right. What are you going to
Our
get?
friendship's starting to crumble. Tony's.
And what are you going to get?
Cookies and cream.
Oh, cookies.
But you got to get it extra thick, though.
There we go.
If you don't, it'll be
Don't
running.
say it's milky.
I'm going to tell you
Oh, yes,
something
it will be.
that will bless your life if you like Oreos, period. So I've always kind of liked Oreos. Not fake knockoff Oreos, not food Oreos or Walmart Oreos, but I want the real deal. Oreo's making this ice cream bar now that's got the Oreo ice cream in the middle. Then it's got like the cookie that's crumbled as the crust of it.
Yeah.
And they cost like $1 a piece, even if you buy them at Walmart. But they will change your life. It's just an amazing kind of experience.
I wish you wouldn't have told me about that.
Oh, man, it is so good. And it's only 190 calories, too, so you don't feel guilty about eating one
Gotcha.
tonight
Eat
like
one
I
in
do.
an ice bath tonight. Yeah.
Hey, Culver's is running they're running pretty close to some blizzards.
Okay.
Are they? Okay. But that's like custard, right? That's like a whole nother level.
They got these concrete mixers,
Yeah.
and it is something else.
Man, there's all kinds of calories you want to jump
Oh,
on
yeah,
this.
yeah.
All right, so how about this one? Mountains or beaches? Where do you want the mountains or
beach,
beach?
for sure.
Okay.
Beach.
Mountains in the fall, beach in the summer. I can't. I can't.
Can't
do,
pick two.
Yeah.
All right.
Mountains.
Okay.
There you go.
Favorite golf course in the mountains?
I hadn't played much mountain golf.
I hadn't either. Jefferson Landing, I'll go there.
Jefferson Landing. Okay. That's up in like,
That's in Jefferson, just
Jefferson.
outside of Boone.
right.
I don't think I've ever played in mountain golf.
Oh, really?
Honestly, I really don't think I have.
All right, beach golf course.
Kiowa.
All right.
Pretty nice.
Beach golf?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You never
I don't
played
play.
beach golf,
So when I
have
go,
you?
see, this is how you know I told the truth on the beach. I go to the beach. I don't play golf. I want to be on the beach.
On the beach, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really hadn't played much golf. I'll give a shout out to my wife. So it was our honeymoon, and we went to Kiowa Island.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine, I promised my golf clubs were just staying in my car. I didn't take them on purpose.
Yeah.
But a buddy of mine said, "Hey, congratulations! I saw you got married." And I was like, "Yeah, appreciate it." We went to Kiowa Island. He's like, "Oh man, we're here. We're playing golf in the morning. You should join us." But I know. I was like, Probably not." And she's like, "Why don't you go play?" And I was like,
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
I
know.
had to run to
Yeah.
Walmart and get a pair of slacks, and I just had regular shoes on, and I was about 5 minutes late for the tee time, but I made
Thank
that
you, Lord,
tee
for
time.
my wonderful wife.
I know, right?
I mean, that's
So-
awesome. That means they let you go last and you were able
Yeah,
to
I mean, I literally, like, they were walking away, and I
Drop.
said, "Here I am," and I hit it
Happy
right
Gilmore
down.
Golf. I
So
love it. Okay, so would you rather go to New York or Los Angeles? How about you?
Well, I'm gonna say Los Angeles. I've been there one time, enjoyed the experience. I go
Yep.
back. The things I'm seeing about New York City right now, I don't really want to go.
All right, gotcha.
I'll go to LA.
All right, Brad, you can
Yeah.
say New York.
No, I'll go with him.
Okay.
I'll go hang out with him.
All right.
That one. We'll go to a Dodgers game.
There's a lot of
Okay.
cool spots out there.
Good deal. West Coast or East Coast in general?
East Coast.
I'll hang out with you on the East Coast too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the time zone difference.
Carolina beaches or any other beaches anywhere else?
Oh, Destin's 100%.
Destin, Florida.
You said that right.
All right, okay.
Any tropical beach on the west side of any island. I'm a little.
You like to
sucker
see
for-
the sunset.
I'm a
All right.
sucker. I'm a little.
There you
soft
go.
there. That's when I do that reflection, have a cigar, and
Yeah,
reflect on the good things.
good deal. I've never seen a more beautiful sunset than from Naples, Florida, over the Gulf of Mexico.
I tell
It's
you,
probably the prettiest thing I've ever seen.
Jamaica and Dominican.
Okay, all right, there we go.
It's pretty. It's pretty.
See,
nice.
you're fancy though. You go on the
I
fancy
know.
vacation,
Yeah,
man. I go Cherry Grove. That's what they call Gaston County West or East. Cherry Grove.
I'll have my mom and Lee to think they take us on family vacations, and so that's what we do for Christmas. So
Okay.
I had them to thank for that one. So
Okay, real tree or fake tree for Christmas?
go ahead, because
Oh, I go fake. Pre-lit fake all day long.
Neither Scrooge Christmas trees, get them out of here.
None.
See, I guess that's my eel side coming out. Now,
Okay.
I'm not a holiday person,
All right.
or any of those. I'm more. I like. Why can't we celebrate Christmas and Valentine's Day and all that anytime? That's me.
Okay.
Don't commercialize it. If I want to get you some flowers, why don't I get you on February 15th and make our own day?
Okay.
So
It's
that's
not like
me.
you want to make your own rules.
That's
All
right.
right.
Maybe on that anyway.
There's a thing with that.
So
I've seen him bend a ball around a tree that's not supposed to go that way.
yeah. No,
Or
here,
hit underneath it.
see, this is again. I'll give another plug to my wife. What we do on Valentine's Day, we go to Waffle House.
Yeah.
I take a candle and a rose. We have obviously have the whole place to ourselves.
Yeah,
We got
'cause
the
not everybody goes to Waffle House on-
Waffle House.
yeah.
Jukebox, turn the music on. We're good.
I like it.
So
I'm kind of
Sounds
simple
like
guy
Gaston
myself
County,
like
don't
that. You guys ever been to like the fancy steakhouses like Chima and all those kind of places?
Couple.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been to those places, man. I just have Longhorn's good enough for me. I don't know.
You can't fix a steak like your own steak, though.
However, if you want to bless your pastor with a Chima gift certificate, I'll try it just for the sake of trying it. All right, how about night or day? Are you a night person or a day person?
Day.
I'm asleep by 9:30, so I mean I'm surprised I didn't fall asleep right here. So that was pretty good.
Okay, that was good.
Proud of me.
I saw you pinching yourself over there to keep awake.
But I'm definitely morning up by 5:30.
About 5 or 5:30. You too?
Well, now the older I'm getting, I'm just naturally waking up at like 5 or 6 and getting up. Yeah, for sure. It's easy to get up in the mornings.
Yeah, good deal. All right, Europe or Asia? If you ever go to a long vacation, you're going to go to Europe, you're going to Asia?
I'm going to Europe.
Can I choose something else?
Yeah. Where else are you going?
Tahiti.
Tahiti. You're going to go the other direction.
Let's go. No, I would go to Europe too. Just the history.
Okay.
I'd probably go to Rome and Sicily and maybe kind of through Greece.
That's cool. Now, if you want to find out about Tahiti, our friend and realtor Kathy Young went there with David this summer with her family. So I guess there's people
overwater bungalows on the west side of the islands. I'm good.
Looking at the sun go down.
There you go.
I love it, man. That's awesome. Well, you guys, is there anything you'd close with as far as a scripture verse or a spiritual lesson or something that where God's really taking, maybe even something He just told you today?
Go ahead if you got one.
Man, I don't know.
While you're thinking, I'll say what I'm going to. I'll interrupt you. He was talking about just people watching, and he was talking about his daughters. When my dad passed away, I had his Bible, and I won't quote the verse because I don't know it. I just make everybody read 3 John 1 and 4, and he had my name written there. And just that, knowing how much he wanted for me, not for himself. That's what we need as a society, especially at family. I mean, it all starts at home. If we can start there and branch out, just to have a heart for someone else, especially obviously your family, but to have a heart for someone else and to have a desire to help somebody.
Right.
And I really take that from him. So
that's awesome.
Mine. 3 John 1 and 4.
It's funny you say you said 3 John.
3 John 1.
Well, what's been on my heart?
Got it on your tattoo.
Yeah.
As late.
Show the team. Show the world.
No.
Show them your gun. No. It's okay.
Is 1 John. I think it's in 3. Do not love the world or the things of the world. It is such a distraction. It's such thrown. It's just absolutely at your fingertips, and it is very easy to love this world, especially as we advance.
Right.
And you do a lot of things that are there that are fun. But that's probably what I would leave you with.
Awesome. Bradford Mulkey. By the way, his full name is Brad Ford. I like that.
Only my mom. You do.
I call you Bradford.
My mom, Joey, you. That's probably about
I call
it.
you that occasionally.
Yeah. I get Bradley, Brad, and I probably.
But I make it a point to do it because your mama told me.
Exactly. So.
Brad.
I named him Bradford.
We call him Brad or Brad Ford, Mulkey. And then Michael Hefner. Just thank you so much for sharing your life with us. And thank you so much for watching as we're learning about how to continue to just be real, authentic, and take our next steps on our journey with Christ. And just thank you guys so much for being with us today.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you too.